Here we go. It's there for anybody. Go ahead. in decades. It's struggled into coming up with a level that we're going to be talking about today. This video is going to be called Facts and Statistics Part 2. And what I'm going to be talking to you today is about victim precipitation theory. And for about 1 minute, in this area right now. Winners. Okay, here we go. This is victim precipitation theory. So, here's what we do. Victim precipitation theory is a controversial theory asserting that victims sometimes initiate the actions which lead to their harm or loss. It is important to study because research shows that it happens with some frequency. We therefore can't be ignored simply because it's distasteful. Ready? To expound on this, here's a victimology. That's the victimology difficult. If the person can directly contact others in the event of victimology study which ways to study of which ways study ways in which behavior crime victims may have led or contributed to their victimization. So, slide 3. To create an accurate victimology, you must understand the depth, physical, and emotional experiences of the party, beyond the party perceived their responses to events, not others' responses to their events, and so on. You also help us to understand that some victims can also be offenders, and some offenders can also be victims. In the case with, let's see, let's say, for example, pedophilia. I know I shouldn't really talk about this, but I really should be talking about this over the internet, but somebody who said they molested a child, that person said not, so that person may have, the person doing the crime, they themselves may have been molested. So you really think about it. That's all it was. That's what one character, 1948, the tormentor who precipitates victimization by torture is founded. Yeah, tremendously. 1856, very victim qualities, detective victims, completely innocent victims of no precipitation. The victim more closely than the offender, or one provokes another victim of harm. Somebody provokes a situation where it makes himself like one of the attack, even if the attack, and he even fight first. And they all say, I guess another saying, please could begin with some prizes, but hey, that's different precipitation theory. There is some precipitation to that situation. So, for instance, somebody says something and provokes an incident. I guess somebody is watching it. Uh,
It's fucking Mickey fucking Carl. There he is. There he is. Don't touch him.
Okay. In a situation where somebody punches you somebody slaps you around, punches you in the face, and you hit them back. It's a lot to do with this right here. There was precipitation in that situation. Okay, let's continue. Wolfgang, if I'm reading this right, Wolfgang, 1958, coined the term victim precipitation. It's a controversial theory asserting that victims sometimes initiate actions which lead to their harm or loss. After precipitation, the victim normally provokes the offender by way of provocative clothing, vulgar language, provocative body language, using threats or swear words, or by minor attacks. Okay. This is a heads up. Like that. I'm going to play a video for you. Just bear with me, folks.
Stars are sounding off about Harvey Weinstein, but some are finding their words backfiring. Kevin Fraser joins us now from our New York office with the story. Kevin.
Nancy, as you can imagine, the Weinstein sex scandal is a sensitive subject, and now Mayim Bialik and James Corden are under fire for how they reacted.
It has been weird this week, though, hasn't it? Watching Harvey Weinstein in hot water. Ask if the women who watched him take a bath. It's weird watching Harvey Weinstein in hot water.
Corden's jokes at a charity event sparked backlash and this apology. Quote, "To be clear, sexual assault is no laughing matter. I was not trying to make light of Harvey's inexcusable behavior, but to shame him, the abuser, not his victims." And this morning, the Big Bang Theory's Mayim Bialik responded to critics who called her recent Weinstein op-ed victim blaming. Several actresses, including Gabrielle Union and Patricia Arquette, slammed Bialik for her editorial, where, among other things, she wrote that she self-protects against unwanted advances. Quote, "I dress modestly. I don't act flirtatiously with men as a policy."
I am deeply, deeply hurt if any woman in particular who has been assaulted, or man, thinks that in any way I was victim blaming.
Meanwhile, actress Kate Winslet is revealing why she snubbed Weinstein in her 2009 Oscar speech.
Thank you so much. My God.
Winslet won an Academy Award for her role in The Reader, and during her acceptance speech, she thanked 19 people, but not Harvey Weinstein, whose company financed and distributed the movie. Kate told the LA Times the omission was, quote, "absolutely deliberate." And although it had nothing to do with sexual harassment, Kate says the mogul exhibited disgraceful, despicable behavior and was bullying and nasty during the making of the movie. At least 38 women have now come forward claiming Weinstein sexually harassed or assaulted them. Singer Kelly Clarkson says the scandal provides a teachable moment.
It's a very important time, I think, right now in the history of our nation right now to really have these conversations with not only your girls, but your boys, and say, this is how you treat a woman, this is how you treat a woman. Or with the girls, this is when you stand up for yourself. This is when, whatever those lessons are.
Now, Weinstein is fighting back when it comes to his company. He was terminated last week, but a source tells us that he plans to challenge his firing at tomorrow's board meeting. He will call in from Arizona, where he's getting treatment at a private residence.
Okay, I'm going to play a quick music. I'll be right back in the next 20 minutes. see it small. Everybody else can see it. Representations statistics by race. Functional difference that results in significant association between race and homicide can be found for African American males. Among precipitation cases, 74% of African American males and 20% of white males. As victims, males comprise 94% of female homicides, and only 72% of non-female homicides saw a significant association between sex and victim and female homicide. Among the victims in cases, 94% of them were males, and 61% of them were females. By precipitation statistics by age. Okay, statistics right here. In general, there is a significant association between men and women used to inflict death in homicide. Frequencies of homicides by stabbing is greater among females than among non-females. Distribution of shootings, beatings, and other methods of inflicting death among female cases show no significant differences. Among victim precipitation cases, stabbing 54%, shooting 26%, beatings 17.2%, other 2.7%. Total precipitation for young men. Timothy Meadows, Russian Meadows, 2016 family, the 2016 family in Ohio. Jonathan was physically, verbally, and mentally abusive to Brent, Russia and her mother. Timothy Meadows was shot in the head while he was sleeping by 14-year-old daughter, Russian Meadows. Lifestyle exposure theory. Lang, 1978. Lifestyle exposure theory. Probability of victimization depends on the kind of interaction with people with high-risk elements. Characteristics way in which individuals allocate their time to vocational activities and their leisure activities related to the probabilities of being in a particular place at particular times, becoming any kind of a person with particular characteristics. This includes lifestyle differences or associated differences in exposure to situations that have high victimization risk, i.e., being in a bad neighborhood, living in a bad neighborhood, or going out alone at night, going down a dark alleyway. This is one of the fucking things. This is one of the reasons why they say this. Why most people say, hey, walk with a friend, don't walk alone. Walk with a friend, don't walk alone. Something wrong in the area. Minimize anything loving on it. It is to everybody. I beat this dead, I don't know why I fucking beat this dead horse, but oh well. Let's continue. Underlying 1978 lifestyle exposure theory is that the marital situation of an individual's life is influenced the type of activity which the individuals involved. These persons who are single are more likely than married persons to spend their free time involved in recreation activities outside the home, especially during the evening and nighttime hours. Limitations of behavior have been structured and focused. Institutions such as marriage within society. she used to shoot kill things. Lifestyle exposure in the United States, an individual's lifestyle greatly affects the possibility of what they can think of alcohol area bar during eating highly out. That has really increased this risk of being big. And now we go into teens activity, the teen activities that Owen F. Nelson 1978. The shift in daily routines of individuals and activities such as the home environment, these activities conducted outside of the home, and the change to location of daily activities and highlights the increased opportunities presented from victimization experience. Activities that take place in public spaces are perceived as situations with greater opportunity for victimization to occur. There are three main elements necessary to create opportunity for victimization to occur. One, motivated offenders, someone who feels need for cash items or need liquidity or other terms of value such as clothing or car. Two, targets, well-being pedestrian who walk temperature or entirely requires surveys to certain estate or house value goods. And finally, three, lack of legal gardens. No residential occupant parent, no police, or a loan traveler. Like this or something like that. Police protection or whatever. Recreational activity inside the home increase the chance of conflict between individuals like offenders. Also suggests that there is an opportunity for victimization. Each of the three elements of routine activities varies present at the same time and space. Grounds for Ohio. Two teenagers assaulted, became violent and punching in the face outside the football stand. Talking about guardians, fresh target says he had always recently joined the home. Take Charles' phone and money. Guardian, phone tracker. Last but not least, go into the deviant places theory. Why sort of makes it accept deviant places with neighborhoods that have certain features such as growing documents of people in these area and contribute to high crime risk. So these are deviant places because they're stations in urban areas. Fiscal problems. Cities typically have difficulty paying for basic services such as policing, public education, traffic laws, maintenance, and snow credit. Services for disabled. Crowding. Cities are crowded in at least two ways. Residential crowding. Unfortunately, people in these small spaces, streets are filled with apartment buildings, condominiums, row houses. Let's not forget Section 8. Cities, apartments, or houses. In Section 8, we typically small because of the lack of space, much smaller houses in some rural areas. There we go. Housing. Much urban housing is substandard, characterized with problems. Windows on the heating system and paint in second position. Reminds me of there you go, I'll watch. Oh shit! Red pill in the wind.
Hey, how y'all doing?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing just fine.
Uh,
I had to act a little bit, but I'm okay.
all right. I'm guessing you. I'm guessing you saw my. Oh crap! I just removed it. I'm gonna go all the way back to the beginning. Because I've been. I just need your insight on something for a minute.
hmm
What I've been basically talking about throughout this live stream is victimology. The person who's what victimology is. It's like this is a study of the ways of which the behavior of crime victims may have led to or contributed to their victimization. And to create an accurate victimology, you must understand the depth of physical and emotional experiences of each party, along with how they perceived and respond to events, and how others responded to their responses, and so on. Von Hettig, 1948, the tormentor who precipitates in his victimization by torturing his family. Mendelssohn, early victim typologies, two types of victims: completely innocent victim, no precipitation; the victim more guilty than the offender, where one provokes another to commit a crime.
Well, so for me, that sounds like a lot of women these days.
Yeah, help me. What's your take on what I just read?
When you walk down the alley. You walk down an alley, not looking for claiming to not look for problems. But when you walk down a dark alley at night, in the middle of the night, dressed in what can be considered as a Halloween costume, but it's in the middle of July, holding with $100 bill hanging out your goddamn pocket of your purse. You're asking to be a victim.
Exactly.
You know, or when you or when you poke at somebody, whether it be subliminally or directly, and the person responds in kind, in a very hurtful manner. You know?
Yeah. Now, what you basically just said now brings me to my next point, which Wolfgang 1958 coined the term victim precipitation as a controversial third, asserting that the victim sometimes initiates the actions which lead to their harm or loss. The first part is active precipitation. The victim knowingly provokes the offender by way of provocative clothing, vulgar language, provocative body language, use of threats and swear words, or by minor attacks. And passive, this is Siegel 2010, passive precipitation. Some victims have characteristics or do something that entices an offender to commit crimes against them, and the victim is unaware of their encouragement of the offender.
Well,
Now, what's your take on it?
let's see. The victim. Well, there's also actually like the active participation. Look at YouTube, for example. You know, some people would actively go about poking and prodding at people until they react and seeing what their reaction is going to be. And when the person gets the reaction that they didn't deserve, well, there's they now they just basically now they're just crying and being a little party foul about it. And basically that's where most of these community guidelines come from. Is either active participation or passive participation. Precipitation.
Yeah. Okay. Brings me to victim offender duality. Victims are viewed as always good or virtuous and offenders are always bad. They're always seen as bad or predatory. The reality exists elsewhere in the hazy middle.
The thing is, sometimes the victims are not always the good people, but that is based on societal norms. In the Western world, we are taught to glorify the victim. We are taught to side with the victim. In the Middle East, they go straight to the source. They're taught to see both sides of the story and decide on whether or not the victim is good or bad. The victim or the offender is good or bad. And when the victim turns out to be bad, they quickly deal with justice. That is why you see in Middle Eastern culture, you have the hijab, the hijab. They have the smock, the garment that covers their whole body to prevent the victim precipitation,
Okay.
or at least minimize it.
Okay. Before I go any further, I wanted to show you a video.
Mm-hmm.
It's Daily Motion, I think.
College thesis?
What did you say?
Is this a college thesis?
No, it's something else.
PowerPoint.
No, no. I got PowerPoint right here.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I put. This is what I put down. This is a PDF file.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got a video?
Yeah, it's on Daily Motion. Only this thing could come up.
Give it some time.
A popular.
Hold on, let me share the screen.
Conversation in the United States is, why do so many people relish victimhood? Why is victim status so sought by so many people? It's really simple. If you're a victim, you get rewarded. But even setting that aside, if there were no rewards, they'd still do it, because if you're a victim, not only are you rewarded, set it aside, you're not being punished. And we have a corrupt as hell culture when it comes to punishment. Here in California, the federal Supreme Court, the highest judiciary body in the land, interpreting the most fundamental legislative document, the Constitution, determined that California jails and prisons are illegal. They're unconstitutional, which means illegal by the most fundamental laws of the land. And yet, nothing has changed. That's the kind of punishment. And to say they're illegal isn't just they're illegal, let's move on. It means that the people that work there allow the prisoners to have gang wars. They encourage them. Race wars. People are in an unsafe environment. You get tormented, raped, tortured. This is the kind of punishment that goes on every single day. It's very common. In fact, George Carlin, famous comedian, dead now, said something to the effect of, society works like this. There's the really rich, they own everything. there's the working people, they do all the work, they get very little money. But then there's the poor people and the people in jail that serve just to scare the shit out of the middle class people to keep them obedient. And that was told as a joke because in our culture you can't really just preach to people because, oh man, don't preach. So it has to be a joke, but that's absolutely the case. We have rich people, we have people that aren't rich, and we have the people scaring these people that aren't rich to keep moving and to stay satisfied that at least they're not the poor people. So again, this is why people want to be victims, is because if you're a victim, then no one can justify that. It's just what's built into our culture now. No one can justify punishing you. The last thing you want to be in this culture is punished. For example, if
Okay. What's your take on that?
It's the absolute truth. It's the absolute truth. Basically, what it is basically you keep that middle class just fed enough to strive to be the rich, you know. But you keep them hungry. You keep them fed enough to keep them from being the homeless and the homeless interned and imprisoned, but never feed them enough to elevate themselves out of their standings. You know, it's a perpetual machine and it works like a charm. Everybody's striving to be a victim, but nobody wants to strive to try to be a victim, because victims, as he said, they get rewarded. They don't get punished. See, most of these people would not last 5 minutes in a culture like the Middle East. You know, because their little victim mentality would dry up like a drop of like a water to Sahara. And basically that's basically the very reason why I don't poke at people, why I typically leave people alone until they piss with me, you know?
I feel the exact same way. I mean, hey, you do your job. Hey, you go your own way, I'll go mine. Just as long as you don't fuck with me, that's cool.
Like I said, the second you bring me into the mix, I make daggone sure that you know that you know what it's like to be a victim. And
Yeah, don't say I didn't fucking warn you. I'm gonna knock your fucking ass out.
Knock you out? No, I'm gonna knock you out the park. You know, I'm gonna knock you to the ground, and then I'm like, and people who know me from a kid know that unless somebody's pulling me off of them, and even then, you have to get the person that I actually care about to pull me off of the person, because I latch on, you know, and I don't stop until there's no, I mean, till like 5-10 minutes after there's no movement.
There was another video that I was watching. Are you familiar with Darius M or something like that?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, actually, that was a video that he made about this crazy psycho feminist or something like that.
Which one?
She was wearing like she looked like a secretary or something like that. To it best.
Don't they all?
Yeah.
Like, pick one.
And you sit down here, and she sat down here and made these audit. She had a big ego, and she sat down here and made all these threats, and like, that couldn't be me, or that couldn't be somebody other than me, because you'd never hear from that woman again.
In the society,
when you do shit like this, you're just asking for fucking trouble. I'm telling you right now.
In a society, you can't react to these people, because now you're the villain.
Fuck it. If I'm the villain, I'm the villain.
But like I said, quick lime and a tree. You know. Yeah, I'm very familiar with Darius McDowell.
Hmm.
I like said, and I'm very and a whole lot of other people in my circle are familiar with Darius M.
Okay. Let's continue.
If you get caught selling drugs, teenager, 13-year-old can get caught selling drugs. You go to juvenile hall, maybe you get on your record that you sell drugs. You won't be able to get financial aid for college. So maybe you're in a situation where you think, people still have responsibility for their actions, but you think that's a good route to take. You're young and you're stupid, you do it. You can't recover from that in this culture. No, I saw this example of where you cannot recover. Some weird example recover. You cannot. Once you have the scarlet letter of anything, then you can just be passed over like nothing. You will be forced, as for example, a former drug seller, you'll be forced to work with other drug sellers, doing something like working at a thrift store or something for government. You will get your government aid. People hate poor people getting government aid. They have to work a crazy amount for that, something you weren't told. There's new statutes saying you have to work for any welfare that you get. And so they have to work around a bunch of other welfare recipients, plenty of them on drugs or had sold drugs, more or less unemployable. They all work together at a business or two that's way overstaffed. And the figure, when I did a story on this here in El Cajon, the figure is you work 80 hours a month, which is, break that down for a week, 20 hours a week. So it's part-time, but you work 80 hours a month for $200. And what that does is that teaches you not to value your time. And no one who doesn't value their time will ever make it in this culture, because you have to be very careful with your time to make it in this insane, fast-paced culture. But again, these are the victims. If they can get that victim status and get the $200 to work around other drug dealers.
Yep, that's exactly what it is, and it's like they overstaffed and underpaid. They leave no chance for advancing. They leave no chance to advance your life. They scare you, but they give no incentive. They give these people zero incentive to improve. They turn like so they give certain victims zero incentive to improve. Zero. Look at what's going on with. Look at what went on with the this here pandemic. Look at what they did during this pandemic. How they treated the people that were. I'm gonna use code words for your channel. Look how they treated the people who refused to comply. 1930s Germany, ring a bell?
Ding.
Does the Soviets' prosecution of of East Germany ring a bell?
Which reminds me that there was I heard somewhere on the news that there was Russian soldiers that were just going into Ukrainian apartments. They were just knocking them down. So,
I mean, honestly, if you really look at it, Ukrainian apartments are nothing more than barracks for soldiers, for militants. You know why they're militant? Because the Ukrainian government handed out guns to civilians, turning them into militants.
never knew that.
No, that's not much different than the United States, where Emperor Hirohito Sorry, not interested. General, I'm trying to remember this. I think it was Katsumoto. Did not want to attack the mainland because he knew that it would be a bloodbath. Because every civilian would turn into a militant. Every civilian from sea to shining sea would wipe out the Japanese army. You don't need tactics. You don't need tactics when there's a whole bunch of people. You know? Some of them have 22s, some of them have 105s. And some of them will just pull out we'll just whip out something together from two cast iron or copper pipes. And just whip out some magically delicious Lucky Charms out of their behind with a can of quick start ether and a grill igniter. You know? The thing is, when you hand your citizens firearms, they now become militants. What people seem to fail to realize is these apartments, now these houses are now barracks for soldiers. He did not violate the Geneva Convention until they said the hospital, until people started talking, saying he didn't attack a hospital, he didn't attack a school, he didn't attack a place of religion. I personally think they set it up to make people believe that he attacked a hospital, so they can say that he violated the Geneva Convention. Because when people started talking about the Geneva Convention, people who knew their stuff started talking about the Geneva Convention. They planted that stuff.
They're trying so it basically opens up a whole can of worms. You're basically just starting a fucking war.
Exactly. You're basically just starting a war.
That's what I honestly, and that's in the back of my mind. That's probably what's going. It's probably what's going on. But what do I know?
Hey, all I know is I need more popcorn. That's how much of a heartless prick I am. I need more popcorn.
All right, let's continue.
But otherwise, if you're not a victim, if you can't prove that you shouldn't be punished, you will be punished and you will not recover from it. So for example, just recently, a guy got out of jail after 5 years in prison, found out he didn't rape the girl. He was exonerated after 5 years. Will she go to jail? Probably not. She has kids.
Oh, yeah.
Will she even have to give back the money that she was rewarded for her trouble?
No, absolutely not. Wait, were you about to say something?
No. I mean, I was about to beat him to the punch. I beat him to the punch. She will not go to jail. She will not pay back the money. He will not see an ounce of retribution for his his pain and suffering.
And that's how wild our culture is. We sit down here.
That's how messed up our culture is, and that is one other reason why I just basically decided to go my own way. I'm not having children in this culture. I refuse to have children in this culture.
This is one of the reasons why I'm an anti. This is probably one of the reasons why I'm an antinatalist.
I'm an anti. I mean, in a sense, I'm an antinatalist for this culture.
So what? So I can bring kids into this fucking world so they can be indoctrinated, shunned, beaten down.
I would rather have kids in Afghanistan than in America. To be honest with you, I would rather have kids in Afghanistan than in America. I would rather have kids in Russia than in America. You know, during the Soviet occupation than in America.
I'd rather not have kids at all and bring them into this shit so they can be indoctrinated, talked down to, made to feel like shit. And I want to sit down here and put them to that. I want to sit down here and put them to that kind of stuff.
let me say this. It's like what's going to happen when you have children. It's going to be nice for the first maybe 5 years. Your wife's going to care about you for 5 years, and then after that 4 or 5 years, she's going to turn on you. She's going to attack you and try to provoke you so she can run a big daddy government and basically get all the victim points that she can gather. And guess what? Guess what you get? Absolutely piss on. You know,
basically a good middle finger.
yeah. No,
Loves-
no, not even a good
loves-
middle finger.
After 5
A
years,
big
loves me.
blue weenie. A big blue weenie in the behind. You know? And you don't even get a common courtesy of a reach around. Or they don't even hit the prostate. They just go in, get in their stuff and prolapse your behind.
Hey, marriage is so fucking wonderful. Relationships are so fucking wonderful. This life is, honestly, it's fucking overrated.
Like I said, and that's one of the reasons why on YouTube I just basically upload videos to upload them, unless they're warranted, unless somebody pokes me and makes me want to actually focus for once.
Shit. But in either case, let's continue.
Troubles? Probably not. Will he lead a normal life? Not really, because he was on track to be a professional football player, and he's probably going to have a few years of relief, like, well, this is so good. Maybe he'll turn something out of this, hopefully, but he might just die a very angry, bitter person for all the unfairness that he was treated. But even this person aside, this huge high-profile case here in California of the person exonerated for rape after 5 years in prison, him aside, all of the other people falsely accused. You never hear of false accusations. It's like no woman ever accused a man of rape falsely. If you look into false accusations, you'll be unpleasantly disgusted how often it happens. You don't hear about it because it's not made a crime. You would only hear about it if charges were filed and somebody cared. But instead, it typically goes like this: the person accuses, and it just is found to be nothing, and they go, you know what, you better knock that off, and it just nothing. But even rape aside, just any little thing. For example, we have a culture, like here in El Cajon, people are really racist towards blacks. Not just white people, settle down. Chaldeans are racist towards blacks, Christian Iraqis. Muslims are racist towards blacks. Blacks are even racist towards blacks. Mexicans racist towards black. Everybody's racist towards each other too. But there's a driving while black thing here in El Cajon big time. If you're driving while black, you are very likely to get pulled over. Now, unless you just go, well, you know, I'm just going to not say, hey, what's the deal? If you just sit by docile and accept that, then you'll be fine. If you ask anything, the cops around here are rude as hell, and they will just escalate it. You get in trouble for dealing with the cop, anything but obediently, your life will be ruined forever. And I know several people, black people, Africans, not African Americans, Africans, Nigerian, and I'm thinking of and one person from Ghana, two specific people, but there are several others. But these two specific people it's that typical story. The nicest people you ever want to meet, completely decent, relatively new to the United States, been pulled over constantly ever since they moved into El Cajon, driving while black. They came from really shitty parts of Africa, though, of very shitty parts of their countries. And so it's still a step up for them. But nevertheless, you have to weather all this stuff. And hopefully people eventually will consider you a victim for any mistreatment you've had. Because if you just handle that wrong with the police, with your teachers, anything, if you get blacklisted from education, or if you get blacklisted from employment or housing, it happens all the time, you will be punished in this culture. And again, just one example, we have corrupt as hell cops doing whatever the hell they want. Here in El Cajon, over the last 16 years since 1995, well, 17 years, there were rogue cops going around shoving their nightsticks up black women's pussies. There's prostitutes around this area, and some of them were getting sexually assaulted like that. And it was ongoing. What the specific case that comes to mind, there more than just that happens with the corrupt ass El Cajon PD. But there was one officer particularly who, since '95, they eventually unfolded that he had a pattern of this behavior. This kind of corrupt shit goes on. And we have this illegal prison system in California. So again, I'm just telling you what's here in El Cajon and here in California as far as punishment. If you end up on the street, a black female prostitute, you might have a crooked cop's nightstick up you. If you break any law that sends you to jail in California, you're likely to go to a jail that is unconstitutionally unsafe, dangerous. So keep that in mind anytime, typically it's these American-loving people. It's fine to love America, but it's not fine to love it blindly. These people that say, you know what, you should not want to be a victim. You should want to live off the government, all these things that they equate with victim status. Meanwhile, if you're not fit for military service, a big part of the jobs are already out for you. So you have to be a mindless murderer to qualify for 100% of the jobs. Particularly, and again, here in El Cajon, we are a, I guess, suburb of San Diego. San Diego is a huge military town. Jobs out here filled by a lot of military and ex-military. And if you're not cool with that, you're not obedient to that, you're going to get punished in one way or another. So just keep that in mind next time you rail against people who want to be the victim. Why are you going to play the victim card? Well, because again, we reward victims, but at the very least, even if we didn't, we don't punish victims. And the last thing you want to have happen to you in a corrupt, evil, and unconstitutional culture, whether El Cajon, San Diego, California, or the United States, the last thing you want is to be punished. You want to be a victim instead.
Yeah. That's pretty much sounds about right. Like, now, I'm all about solutions. I'm all about finding solutions to problems. You know, I understand that anywhere I go, I'm going to face hardship.
Exactly.
And my family, a lot of my family members complain about these hardships in America. And I say, okay. And it's like, okay, well, then we can just leave. You know? And it gets, where are you going to go? Okay. Where are you going to go? Ghana? Where are you going to go? Well, let's try Germany. Let's try Ghana. Like, oh, Germany, it's got cold weather. It's and the people, what do we got here? What do we got here? France? Well, let's try France. Let's try Libya. Let's try Ethiopia. Let's try somewhere else. Let's try to build let's try to take our energy and build another culture up, or build someplace else up. Take our energy and our knowledge, and it's just, oh no. Like I said, they got spiders. We got spiders. We got poisonous spiders that'll put us in the ground. They got snakes. We got snakes. Did you ever heard of the diamondback rattlesnake? The cottonmouth? The the copperhead?
Oof.
We got like I said, they got cougars. They got lions. We got cats that'll put us in the ground. Hell, we got grizzly bears. We got black bears. We got brown bears. Hell, in some places in the United States, we got polar bears, and now we got roller bears and grizzly bears. So tell me, what do they have that we don't in the world? You know, most of us can't own a firearm, so Australia would be perfect.
And in Mexico, I mean, it's illegal to own a firearm, so
No, right? It's illegal.
You got these Mexican cartels that are just killing civilians left and right.
Exactly. So what's the difference? What's the difference? I mean,
you're basically fucking all sides.
Right. So you choose how you want to get screwed. You choose how you want to get screwed, or just sit down and shut up. You know, or just sit down and shut up, and try to do what you can with what you have. That's one of the things that I gotta say. Like I said, first things foremost. As I said this before, 20%, 20%, maybe 25% now is the survivable is the threshold of survival for any culture without a country backing them. Excuse me. For any culture that doesn't have a country backing them, a whole large superpower backing them, or some sort of mineral rich culture backing them, is the survival threshold. Black people are about 14, maybe 13 or 12% of the population, well below for the survivability threshold. Within the next maybe 20, 30, I'd say about 50 years, we're done. Just we're past we're almost to the point of no return. We are almost to the point of no return. Black people are almost to the point of no return, and I'm okay with it. You know, I'm okay with it.
At this point, I just completely give it up on my entire species, or the
Right.
species as a whole.
I've given up on humanity, because let me tell you something here. It's never a tragedy. It's never a national tragedy until either A, people are living on reservations, or B, there's one left. You know? It's never a tragedy. It's never a national or global tragedy until A, people are living on reservations, or there's one left. You know, like I said, if I end up as one of the last living black people, I'm going to say the same thing. It wasn't a tragedy when we were at 14% of the population. It wasn't a tragedy when we started counting down the percentage of people of the population. Now it's a tragedy. I have no intentions on doing my part to try to bring up the population. Zero intentions. You're gonna have to basically go back and bring slaves over yet again. If you really that feel that deeply about having a black America as it once was, go over there and start slavery over again. Rip up the Emancipation Proclamation and start over.
Yeah.
If you feel that deeply.
Yeah.
Because it's too late. It's almost too late for black Americans right now as we speak. You know,
And I'm looking at this and I go, where exactly did we fuck up at?
we fucked up whenever black women kicked the black man out of the house in favor of welfare. That was long before we were born. We fucked up whenever we kicked many of our grandparents kicked our grandfathers out of the house in favor of child support. Section 8. We fucked up whenever the mothers of the hood allowed drugs to flow through the hood freely. That's where they screwed up. That's where we screwed up. We screwed up during the crack epidemic. We screwed up in the 90s. We screwed when R. Kelly was saying Players wanna play, haters wanna love something wanna
Which brings me to this part: a proportional difference that results in a significant association between race and VP homicide can be found in the African American males. Among victim precipitation causes, 74% of African American males and 20% of white males.
Not surprising, because let me tell you something here. We don't have lawyers. You know, we don't have lawyers. We don't have doctors. We don't have anybody in any of the fields to benefit us. To benefit. We don't have doctors. We don't have lawyers. We don't have judges. We don't have We don't have politicians to balance anything. We barely have enough blue collar jobs in our own community to be worth a darn. We don't have computer engineers. We don't have civil engineers. We don't have any engineers. We don't have anybody in any of the STEM fields. We don't have anybody in any fields. The highest we might have is truck driving. The highest we might have is some sort of blue collar, is some sort of store that's probably going to get bought out by the Middle Eastern, the Indians, the Koreans, the Latino. I mean, it's the highest. It's just what's going to happen. Let me break this to you. We're broke and lame. We're broke and lame. We are lame horses. We're broke. We ain't got the GDP. We can't. We're like many of us. We have a hard time finding employment because of the reputation of the media. And even with this, BLM has really done a lot of damage to the black community. BLM has done a lot of damage. There are people that are afraid to hire black people. BLM has basically made it to where my marketable skills are worth piss all because I'm black. BLM has done a lot of damage to the black community, and these people don't realize it, and these people are too stupid to realize it.
Okay. Let's take a look at this. As victims, males comprise 94% of VP homicides, but only 72% of non-VP homicides, showing a significant association between sex of the victim and VP homicide. Among the victim precipitation causes, 94% of males and 6% of females.
I'm gonna tell you this much. In a bank robber situation, or in any situation, any hostage situation, you kill one female, everybody's jumping after you. You start killing men off. By the fifth or sixth one, they're thinking about it. Say a room of 50 females and 50 women. You start killing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. By the 10th male, they're thinking about it. So you're down to 40 men, right? You start by the time you get down to 10. By the time you get down to 10, and you start counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. They're already pushing somebody to do something. It's just showing. It's basically male disposable. We're disposable. You can damn near kill most of the men off before anybody does anything. That is, I mean, the thing is, that is why women can get away with, I don't know if I'm having a girl or an abortion. That's how they can get away with it, because we're disposable. We are disposable. I run these scenarios on my 10 hour, and it's disturbing. And this just confirms it. I run these scenarios while I'm driving, and it confirms it. And it's disturbing. I run these scenarios on my 34. it's disturbing the fact that I run these scenarios in my head and it comes out this accurate. But yet, I don't know how in the world there are still this many men in these societies. You know, I don't understand how there are this many men left in these societies.
Wait, I think somebody's Slosh the logic.
What's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Well,
I've never heard of you before.
Hey guys. Oh, it's me. It's the Logic Only Zone. It's
Logic
me.
only. Oh, I didn't see you there.
Yeah. Hey boys, what's going on? We're breaking it down. We're ripping it down. We're doing our thing, but we're breaking it down. How you guys doing?
I'm doing
I'm
all right. It's nice to have you in the stream. I really wish True Sherm would be here in the stream because I said it was going to go live. I don't know where he is.
Well, I will give him 5 lashes later.
like I said,
1 lash, you love it. 2 lash, you love it. Come on, you know you love it. Lash 3.
the thing is, like, yeah, as I was saying, is I run these scenarios in my head, and it's disturbing how accurate I am.
Since you're here, Logic, I'm going to read this to you. I'm pretty sure you heard of victim precipitation theory.
Precipitation.
Yeah, victim
like
precipitation.
Condensation, kind of. Yeah.
Not like weather. Victim precipitation.
Okay. Victim. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. To create an accurate victim analogy, we must understand the depth of physical and emotional experiences of each party.
Yes.
Along with how they perceived and responded to events, and how others responded to their responses, and so on.
Yes. Okay.
And
Fair.
what I did, and hold on, let me do this. What is victim precipitation theory? It's a controversial theory asserting that victims sometimes initiate their actions which lead to their harm and loss. It is important because the study research. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, I was curious about the rest of that.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
It is important
to study.
It is important to study because research shows that it happens with some frequency, and therefore I can't necessarily see all of this.
Okay. Okay. No, this is interesting. This is very collegiate that you put together here.
Yeah.
Okay.
According to victim precipitation theory, some people may actually initiate the confrontation that eventually leads to their injury and/or death.
Okay.
The common examples include the legal principle of self-defense, contributory negligence, i.e. carelessness of the victim being part of the cause of injury, comparative negligence, of which the party is of greater fault, or assumption of risk, in which one exposes his or herself to known dangers if one is harmed.
So what it seems you're trying to share with us is that for individuals who have a perception, the rightness or the wrongness of that perception not necessarily be put to heart, but the fact is that based upon perceptions, people may engage in specific behaviors that might ultimately end up in their self-destruction.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's very true. And absolutely your perception plays the major role in that. And the thing is, like, you might be a victim in some circumstances, but if you take that victim perception and then you apply it withheld to your perception of reality and how you engage with other people, that might ultimately lead to your downfall. Exactly. I can see where that's going. Like the invisible forces that control our lives, very dangerous.
Yes, and here's what I think. Here's what I think, and here's where I put it. And early victim typology is 2 types of victims: completely innocent victim, no precipitation; the victim more guilty than the offender when one provokes another to commit a crime.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Now, there are two types of precipitation. It's active precipitation, where the victim knowingly provokes the offender by way of provocative clothing, vulgar language, provocative body language, use of threats and swear words, or by minor attacks.
Okay, so what you're saying is like somebody might actually be a victim. Like it's possible that they could be a victim in a certain circumstance, but that circumstance might very well be isolated. And what the individual does is they broaden this perspective to look at people in a generalized way, where they're looking at people and society at large. And what's happening is somebody might say something to them or might do something with their body or express themselves in a certain way, and that can provoke a threat in that individual who has broadened their perspective of people. And in which case, that can lead to very dangerous and destructive things. That's very interesting.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and let's go to passive precipitation, which is.
Hey, do y'all still need me here?
What'd you say?
You need me here still?
I mean,
I'm gonna get me a little bit of sleep. You know.
All right. Well, yes, nice having you on the stream.
Well,
Hey,
if you're up to it, you should stick around. I think we're going somewhere with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still on a 10-hour, and I gotta start driving in a couple hours.
Oh, then
yeah,
boy, you better get what you need.
Yeah.
Get your sleep. But it's nice having you red pill on the win.
Hey, nice being here. I mean, like if you ever, like I said, if you come on Friday, like, I mean, see, we could talk about this more. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on that Friday, so I'm
All
not
right.
able to make it in.
All right, 10-4. Hey,
All right.
good.
See you later.
Peace.
Oh crap! Oh, sorry.
Whoops. No, it's okay. I gotta say, I really do appreciate and value your academic expertise. Like, did you make this? Did you go through this and make the slide?
Yeah, that's what I
No,
did.
this is great. This is exactly what people do in high levels of academia. This is very good research. You are putting things together and making a really good point that's really provocative in an intellectual and logical way. I really love this.
Well, thank you.
This is fantastic. Like, somebody's got to tell you when you're doing something really fantastic. This is good.
Yeah, that's why I'm called the Spider 32. I bite with facts and logic. I'm willing to have an open discussion with anybody.
Yeah.
Please don't bring bullshit.
Well, and most people are not like, I don't know what it is, but a lot of people really struggle to engage with things like this. But if you have any amount of intelligence and you're looking at this, you're reading it, you're following what's being said, like you're putting out a very solid argument. You're giving sources, you're giving information. This is solid stuff. This is very good. And this is what the world needs. People need information provided like this, and to value that information is provided like this. So this is solid.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with the passive precipitation. Some victims have characteristics or do something that entices the offender to commit crimes against them, and the victim is unaware of their encouragement to the offender.
Yeah.
So let's just say, for instance, I'm going to get into this later. Somebody sits down here and leaves their door wide open or leaves their car unlocked, and somebody's out to take somebody. You're basically inviting that person to take your car or steal your car.
Right.
That would be passive.
So you basically leave the keys in the ignition, you leave the doors unlocked, and you leave them totally open.
Yes.
Yeah, you're putting yourself out in the open. You're saying other people offend you and that other people are a problem. You're just inviting them to push back against you, kind of a thing. Yeah.
But we need to teach boys not to bake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's almost constructed conflict in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a serious issue because, like, ultimately at our core, we should be trying to deal with our stuff, trying to find equal ground with other people and create equilibrium among each other. But almost it seems that, in a sense, people are trying to leave all the doors open, leave the keys in the ignition, leave the car running, and just looking for a justification to be upset with someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Like,
the
you
degree
can't
to
sit down
which
here and
you passively do that is up to you. But
like, you can't sit down here, like, if you're at a bar and you sit down here and leave your drink unattended for somebody to sit down here and put something in it, wouldn't common sense? But people, this is the thing. People have no common sense. A lot of people have no common sense. Common sense would tell you
yeah,
to sit down here and throw the drink away and get another drink because somebody will sit down here and spike it.
well, yeah, and that's a more terrifying metaphor, but the point being still the same, that
And I'm sorry,
you
I
should
don't
be
mean to cut you off,
protective
but
of
you
yourself.
got society that sits down here and promotes this kind of stuff, and I'm like, come on here, someone's got to give.
Right. Well, and the thing is, like, class warfare and also racial warfare and all these things are beautiful and wonderful distractions from the economic issues, the wars that are happening, and the exploitation that's occurring simultaneously. So, where you are focused upon other people or other things, you're not thinking about how the things specifically are affecting you and attacking those things that are affecting you as an individual and specifically in a negative way. So, what I mean by that is that there are things at large in society that are affecting people, but instead of focusing on those things, instead of coming together as a people, as a society, as a country, as a nation, we get focused upon minutia, these minor things that are very emotionally, uh, uh, um, how should I say, emotionally electronic, in the sense that we're really emotionally perturbed in a certain way towards certain things. But we have to always understand that no matter what we have among each other, we got to stick together, and that what is happening on a larger scale, what is happening at the top of society, if you will, those are the things that are most disturbing that we should focus on. But emotional humans are emotional beings, right? We're emotional creatures, so we're going to be really, really manipulated by something that might emotionally perturb us. We might even take an isolated situation with somebody and then expand it to all of society. Like, if I have one really bad relationship with a woman, if I just take that and say all women are bad, that's a big problem. But if I have
The same goes for women. It's like,
right,
if I've had a bad experience with
sure,
men, all men are shit.
Absolutely. But like, if I have a
And they
situation
carry
that
on this
occurs over and
mentality
over and over
throughout,
and over again, that's one thing. But you get the idea of, we have to think rationally, because, like, male or female or whatever's going on, like, there's obviously conflicts that need to be resolved, but we have to understand that at the end of the day, we're human beings. So, like, what's really cool is when you get into these kind of ways of laying out arguments, what you ultimately end up with is, we're all human beings and we got problems, but we need to come together. And what's stopping people from coming together is this passive precipitation. Like, there's these not thinking about it, passive, which means that it's subconscious in a sense how people are behaving, and that's affecting the way that which we engage with each other in general. But anyway, what else you got to say?
Okay, the victim offender duality. Victims are viewed as always good or always or virtuous, and offenders are always bad or predatory. The reality of crime exists somewhere in the hazy middle. A proportional difference that results in a significant association between race and VP homicide can be found for African American males. Among the victim precipitation, 74% of African American males, and 20% of white males.
Mm-hmm.
And as victims, males comprise 94% of VP homicides, but only 72% of non-VP homicides show a significant association between sex in the victim and VP homicide. And among the victim precipitation cases, 94% of males and 6% of females.
So what's VP homicide?
The victim precipitation, basically.
Okay. So is the VP homicide metaphorical or is it literal?
I think it might know what exactly like metaphorical or literal.
Okay. 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 So the homicide is not actually hurting people, or like not physically harming people. Is that what this means?
I think when they say non-VP homicides, it's like they're total. This is my thinking. Like maybe it's not. Maybe it's like there's no victim precipitation. That's what I think. It's like totally innocent. It's like totally innocent. Party's totally innocent of that. When they at least when they mention non-VP homicides.
So you don't mean like homicide as in homicide?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. So okay.
Among age, in general, there's significant association between method used to inflict death and VP homicide. Frequency of homicides by stabbing is greater among VP than among non-VP cases. The distribution of shootings, beatings, and other methods of inflicting death among VP cases shows no significant differences. Among victim precipitation cases, stabbing 54%, shooting 26%, beating 17.2%, and other 2.7%. And here's a couple of cases. Okay, here's lifestyle exposure theory. Hindelang, 1978, the probability of victimization depends on the amount and the kind of interaction that people have in these high-risk coordinates. The characteristic way in which individuals allocate their time to vocational activities and to leisure activities are related differently to probabilities of being in particular places and particular times and coming into contact with persons who have particular characteristics. This implies that lifestyle differences are associated with differences in exposure to situations that have a high victimization risk.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, an example of this would be the marital situation of an individual is likely to influence the type of activity in which the individual is involved. Those persons who are single are more likely than married persons to spend their free time involved in recreational activities outside of the home, especially during the evening and nighttime hours. Limitations of behavior are constructed as a result of institutions such as marriage within society.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's your take on this lifestyle theory?
Yeah. No, like based upon the choices that you make, who you associate with, those things will influence how you experience life and how you see other people. Like that is very true. But it is always important that we remain in a state of mind where we can look at those things objectively and be able to isolate them to the individuals that are causing the distress. So if you're a woman and you're married to a man and the man is an asshole, just that man is an asshole. It doesn't mean all men. That can happen. If you're a man and you're married to a woman and the woman is an asshole, so forth and so on. Gender not being a factor, but the circumstances of how you're engaging with other people. And then based upon that lifestyle, like you might be a woman who goes to bars and you date and have sex with a lot of men, or you're a man and you do the same and so forth. That has an influence on how you perceive other people, experience life, and then judge other people. But you must know that the environmental circumstance and stimulation that the environment provides, the individuals that you're having relationships with, every individual is unique and different. And so what people are doing is based upon their lifestyle, they're creating a cognitive dissonance and a bias with regard to how those people are and who they are. And that's a major mistake. And you can see it all over Twitter. You can see it all over social media where people are making that mistake and broadening their isolated, vacuumous experiences and expanding them across all other people within a certain region, whether it's politics, whether you're Republican or liberal, or whether you're man or female, or whatever it might be. But a general neglect of realizing that individuals are their own sovereign selves with their own unique characteristics, and you cannot broaden such expectations among all people.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's a good thing when you look at it. And when a woman does it, it's like she's completely exonerated of anything. But when a man does it, it's like, you know.
Well, keep in mind, like, look at it like this. So if the majority of women are passive in the sense that we've discussed, and they're coming to these conclusions, then that can have an effect where all women start to look at men in a certain way. Or that can have effect in the alternate way where all men start to look at women in a certain way. Well, very important that we consider at this moment that women tend to be a little bit more emotional thinkers, which is very much more proponent to this way of perceiving reality than men, who are much more reasonable or logical, biologically speaking. So that's very important to consider. And so even though I say what I'm saying, on a broader perspective, it may very well be that on the female side, there's a lot more victimhood than on the male side. And that's something that's important to consider. But the point being that all over, so overall, it's illogical to judge people not on an individual level. So, yeah.
Okay. Let's go into, now that being said, let's go into the routine activities theory. And this is Cohen and Felsen, 1979 routine activities theory. The shift in the daily routines of individuals from activities centered in the home environment to activities conducted outside of the home, and the change in the location of daily activities highlights the increased opportunities presented for victimization experience. Activities that take place in public spaces are perceived as situations with greater opportunity for victimization to occur. There are three main elements necessary to create an opportunity for victimization to occur. One, motivated offender, someone who feels the need for cash, items with immediate liquidity, or other items of value such as clothing or car. Now, two, suitable targets, a well-heeled pedestrian in the wrong part of town, a rental car in search of the interstate, or house with valuable goods. And you've got three, and last but not least three, you've got the lack of capable guardians, no residential occupant present, no police, or a lone traveler.
Oh, okay. So how does the theory of routine activities theory relate to the previous one?
Well, when a person's, let's see, person's routines, like maybe, okay, I'll give you an example. Hold on. Two teenagers assaulted Shane Valentine by punching him in the face outside of a group home where he was staying. Suitable target. No guardians, fresh target since he had only recently joined the group home. Motivated offender, motivated to take Sean's iPhone and money. Incapable guardian. Lone traveler. That's how I look at it. And recreational activities that take place outside of the home increase the chance of contact between individuals and likely offenders. Cohen and Felsen, 1979, suggests that there is opportunity for victimization in each of the three elements of routine activity. Routine activities theory is present within the same time and or space.
So you're saying, so what you're doing is you're broadly looking at the different kinds of victimization, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good. It's like this is this is a really good thing to point out, that this is another kind of victimization and how people are victimized in society by other people. That's good.
Okay, and my last but not least is the places theory. Rodney Starr, 1987, deviant places. Urban neighborhoods that had certain features such as crowding, large numbers of people living in a small area, contribute to high crime rates. Cities are deviant places precisely because they're cities.
Right. And resources are few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
So, of course, people are going to victimize other people if they need resources, because that's the only resource to go after, other people, right? People are the resource in a city. Yeah.
Fiscal problems. Cities typically have difficulty paying for basic services such as policing, public education, trash removal, street maintenance, and snow removal, and providing services for the poor and disabled. Now, with crowding, cities
Yeah.
are crowded in at least two ways: residential crowding, large numbers of people living in a small amount of space. Section 8, basically. City streets are filled with apartment buildings, condominiums, row houses, and other types of housing, and many people living on a one city block. Once again, Section 8.
Yeah.
House, this household crowding. Dwelling units in cities, apartments, and houses are typically small because of lack of space, and much smaller overall than houses in suburbs and rural areas.
Yeah, so they're saying like it happens in the city, but it can also happen within your own home, where there's crowding, resources are few, and there is pressure in order to victimize other people, so you have what you need to survive. So if you live in a city and you have few resources, you're likely to become a victim or to victimize other people for your means of survival. Yeah.
Housing. Much urban housing is substandard and characterized by such problems as broken windows, malfunctioning heating system, peeling lead paint, and insect infestation, and so on and so forth. Adequate housing is not affordable for many city residents, as housing prices in cities can be very high, and usually higher than in rural areas, and the residents' incomes are typically very low. Cities thus have a great need for adequate, affordable housing. Another housing issue concerns racial segregation. Although federal law prohibits segregated housing, cities across the country are nonetheless highly segregated by race, and with many neighborhoods all or mostly African American.
Right. Right. So ultimately, what it does is it ends up creating a victimhood crisis within certain people of ethnic backgrounds, in this case, as described, African Americans, where they're living very close to each other with very few resources. So ultimately, as we've seen in many American cinema, movies, TV shows, and so forth, where African Americans exploit each other and victimize each other. If not other races like Mexicans or Asians, or in actually some cases also white people, where people are living very close in cities with very few resources. So that's interesting.
Now, lastly, homelessness. Research find that 1 in 3 of homelessness are victims of violence or theft during the year.
Yeah.
This rate of victimization is 4 times higher than that of the general population. Homeless shelters provide some relief against crime, but too few shelters exist to meet the demand, and those that do exist are underfunded.
That's true. I worked at a homeless shelter for several years. That's very true. Most homeless shelters throughout the U.S. function in a way where they only have so many spaces in the shelter for people to stay. You line up. If they fill all the spots, then you're on the street for the night. And it just comes down to the fact that people can't make money off of homeless people. Well, there are nonprofits that make money off homeless people. I should say that. But homeless people do not actually provide anything for society. So in terms of society providing things for homeless people, that's pretty much null and void. And that really just comes down to our capitalist society and a profit-based society where homeless people, because they don't actually provide anything, and usually people who are homeless have a disability of some kind. So they're mentally ill, or they've made the wrong choice and used certain drugs and so forth. So though within the homeless sector, there might be a certain principle of victimization, really broadly, systematically, there's certain issues that lead to this issue. So in terms of victimization, I'd say that at least homeless people have something to say, for sure. Just to throw that out there.
Okay, quick question.
Mm,
I have
yeah.
a question for you. Now, seeing though that poverty and homelessness are inextricably linked, because one leads,
Yes,
because one leads to the other,
absolutely.
and the male populace homeless is almost higher than the women's, but women
Much
are
higher.
much
Yes.
higher.
Majority.
They say that women are in poverty, but poverty leads to homelessness. So how exactly does that work?
Well, if you're a man, so I do think that if you're a woman, you tend to propel a little bit more empathy from other human beings. That as a man, you are expected to achieve and provide for yourself. I think that's certainly true, culturally speaking. I think that's definitely true. And generally speaking, women are thought as weaker than men, culturally speaking, and therefore people are more inclined to help women than they are men. And that is even so true if you have some kind of mental disability that you have no control over, or physical disability that you have no control over. Even still, people expect men to somehow pull up their bootstraps in that circumstance. So that's a big issue. When you get to the very bottom of society, if you will, there is actually victimhood in that case, and there is nobody to give you a helping hand in that sense. And it is true that when you, even at the bottom of society, with that victim thinking mentality, there might actually be programs that can help you. But a lot of those folks just feel like, I've been so, beaten down and abused, I just can't trust people anymore, which to some extent is understandable at that very low point. But there are actually some programs that can help people even at that very, very low step. So that's curious and interesting. But it doesn't change the fact that within society there is always some kind of victimhood, and if there were any justifiable victimhood, is definitely at the very bottom of society when it comes to poverty. So that's curious. That's definitely interesting. What do you think?
I think the same. I think the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna show you a video before I take off.
YouTube to
Hold on.
Oh yeah.
monetize my channel, so support me on Patreon and subscribe to my new channel, Possum Reviews, where I review movies. Male homelessness, the issue no one
It
is
looks
talking
like you got to change your screen.
Yeah,
Well, it's up to you how you want to do it. Do you want to do audio?
Yeah, I can try and hit share.
All right.
about. Men make up the majority of the homeless population in the United States, and homeless women have it easier. According to the HCH Clinicians Network, as of 2001, 2/3 of the homeless population in the United States consisted of men unaccompanied by children, and 84% of them are single adults between the ages of 25 and 54. Despite the fact that 41% of homeless men have jobs versus only 27% of homeless women, homeless men are substantially less likely to have health insurance. Where 62% of homeless men are lacking health insurance, only 40% of homeless women are uninsured. Homeless men are also less likely to be on government assistance. Only 22% of homeless men have Medicaid versus 47% of homeless women, and only 38% of homeless men receive government benefits versus 60% of homeless women. But that study was conducted in 2001. According to the National Coalition for the Homeless, as of 2007, unmarried men account for 76% of the homeless population. The same report says 40% of homeless men are veterans, even though only 34% of the general population has served in the armed forces. This means that, statistically, people who have served in the military are more likely to become homeless. And since men account for 84% of those serving in the military, this obviously means men are more affected. According to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, that figure has gone down in recent years, but veterans are still overrepresented among the homeless. According to them, 91% of homeless veterans are men. Because veterans are likely to suffer from traumatic brain injuries, PTSD, or other mental illnesses, and drug dependency, many of them become unemployable once they leave the service. According to Pew Research Center, women are about twice as likely to be on food stamps than men are. This could be a symptom of women having lower average income than men, and thus needing them more, or it could be because the requirements for SNAP benefits are more lenient if you have children. And, as has already been established, homeless men are far less likely to be accompanied by children. In fact, those without children can't even qualify for temporary assistance for families and can only get SNAP benefits for 3 months out of every 3 years unless they're working at least part-time, which may not even be possible for homeless men suffering from disabilities or mental illness, which is the case with most homeless veterans. So if you're a single homeless man, you simply have fewer options than a homeless woman with kids. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, women of all age groups are more likely to receive public assistance. An article on Journalist Resource points out that more women than men are on food stamps. And like many other articles I've seen, their tone is that it's so terrible that so many women are dependent on these welfare systems. But all of them ignore the fact that men aren't receiving these benefits as much as women, despite the fact that men make up the majority of the homeless population. And this suggests to me that there are more men in need of these welfare systems, but are being denied access to them. There's also a general assumption that any man who ends up homeless somehow deserves to be. Peter Marin of the Alicia Peterson Foundation summarizes the situation rather succinctly in his article, Abandoning Men, Jill Gets Welfare, Jack Becomes Homeless. To put it simply, men are neither supposed to nor allowed to be dependent. They are expected to take care of others and themselves, and when they cannot or will not do it, then the assumption at the heart of the culture is that they are somehow less than men and therefore unworthy of help. An irony asserts itself. By being in need of help, men forfeit the right to it. This isn't just a problem in the United States. In the United Kingdom, 71% of the homeless population is male, and those homeless men are also substantially more likely to be addicted to drugs and to suffer from mental health problems than homeless women. Despite this, the issues surrounding male homelessness get little to no public attention. And to make matters worse, charities and advocacy groups, which claim to be fighting homelessness, don't seem interested in talking about how homelessness uniquely affects men, only when it affects women. Why is it that even charities and advocacy groups have less sympathy for male victims? That's a subject for another time.
Can I share a few things before you go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so first of all, the reason why the average age of a homeless man is 25 to 45 is because they die. Just want to point that out.
Okay.
And that's very true that income assistance is less likely. I've worked with all kinds of social workers and so forth. That's very fucking true. And it has to do with these companies, not companies, nonprofits, but essentially they function like companies.
Yeah.
Where they put in front children, families, and women, and then men are ignored. Always the men's shelters are individuals who are severely neglected, always. At men's shelters. I've worked at organizations where they have shelters for all kinds of folks, kids, men, women, families, and so forth. The men are always neglected. And in that neglect, they create a chaotic shelter, a chaotic environment where the men are, and they just assume that's just how men are, and they just ignore the men. That's very true that they only have access to things like SNAP because they don't have kids or they're not women. They have access to less things than other people. And it's also very true that when you're homeless on the street, that you don't usually start as a drug addict. You become a drug addict because you feel hopeless, and then somebody gives you free drugs.
Exactly.
So somebody gives you a sample. Here's some free drugs, and then you get hooked on the drugs. So I don't believe in that whole thing where you're a drug addict and you become homeless. I think it's far more often that you become homeless than a drug addict.
Exactly.
And where men feel hopeless and they have very few people actually helping them, you get this. And I've also seen this at shelters where if you go to a family shelter, you go to a women's shelter, the women and the families are very well taken care of, so they have a lot more hope. But if you go to a men's shelter, they're not very well taken care of. And so they have less hope. They're less willing to apply for services. They're less willing to work with social workers just based upon the environment. So the thing is, people want to say that it's just because men are bad, but that's not the case. It's that men
are privileged.
Yeah, well, men when they're homeless are in a much more desperate situation because they're less likely to actually get help, even though most people who are homeless are men, and they are ignored and they're put into chaotic and ugly and
bullshit
disgusting
situation.
environments.
It's a
Men's
bullshit
shelters
like
are always
privilege.
more
Get the
filthy.
fuck out of my fucking face, you dumb bitch.
But have you ever been in a female bathroom and then went to
Oh
the
yeah,
men's
I'm a custodian.
Yeah, it's not that men are creating the chaotic environment. it's not that men are disgusting. That's not
because
the
I've
case
seen,
at all.
I've witnessed firsthand. I've actually cleaned a shitty toilet, and it took me a couple of minutes to clean this shit up, and I was like,
yeah, it's not.
We're disgusting.
Yeah,
You
well,
ever notice how they hover? When they use the bathrooms, they hover over the fucking toilet. They don't actually sit on the toilet. It's like that's what you got the little things for. You got the little things for. You got the little seat covers. Put the damn seat covers on there, and then sit on the fucking toilet.
Yeah, so it's not men that are filthy and disgusting. It's the other way, generally speaking, statistically. But that being the case, men aren't creating these filthy, disgusting shelters. Men are being forced into these filthy, disgusting shelters. They're not being provided the benefits that they really need. Almost always, the resources and clothing, you name it, so forth and so on, are being provided to women at women's shelters, and also they're being provided to kids, which is good, but men are being ignored. And predominantly within the nonprofit sector, it is women that work in those professions. So women being the people who have all the power in nonprofits, generally speaking, men are ignored. They're not important. They're not provided for. But also consider in the marketing campaigns that nonprofits put forward, men are always ignored too. So you might think that the reason why men aren't actually getting help who are homeless men is because they're not talked about. But ultimately, men don't sell. This is a larger systemic and cultural issue where society at large doesn't care about men. Like as men,
correct,
culturally and socially, we don't have value. People don't care about us. And that's a significant problem. And that's something that men need to really take to heart, that society and culture doesn't care about you. And that means that as a man, you have to think as an individual, you have to overcome as an individual, and you have to be strong because at the end of the day, nobody's going to help you. And God knows I'm doing everything I can so that ultimately one day I don't become homeless, because that would be a fucking nightmare, as we just discussed.
Trust me.
And
I've been in that situation since Katrina, and I do not like that situation.
So as a man, I'm put in a position where I have a handicap, if you will. I'm not using the term handicap. I'm saying I have a handicap culturally and socially, where I'm being put in a position where I have to fucking achieve. And if I do not achieve, nobody's coming to save me. So everything that people say, like, women are, not making as much money as men or so forth and so on. The safety net at the bottom of society has children's and women's back hardcore. They have their back hardcore. I've been in women's shelters, I've been in family shelters, and believe me, they are very well taken care of. Very well taken care of. But if you're a man, you're fucked. And so I'm just saying, like, you know, do what you can do, make as much money as you possibly can, and that's the only way to go forward. And you know, fight your ass.
As a man, you have no backup. You have no safety net.
You have no safety net. Nobody's going to help you. You better fucking make it. You better work your ass off. You better come up with some ingenious ingenuity of some sort or something like that. Come up with something, because you got to do something. Otherwise, nobody's going to save you.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
And it's nothing to be sad about, because men have to realize that they need to have each other's back. Because it's almost like men have been put in a corner where if nobody's going to have my back in society, I'm not going to have other men's back. But you got to have each other's back. Like, even though men are aggressive and men fuck with each other, if a man fucks with me, we're going to fight. Like, men can be very aggressive. We don't fuck around. But at the end of the day, men have to have each other's back, because we're the only ones that can have each other's backs. So that's something that's really important to think about and to consider very rigorously and intellectually, I think. So, yeah.
Well, that's gonna do it for here, the Spider 32. It's nice to have. I'd like to thank everybody that's been here. I'd like to thank Red Pill in the Wind. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Logic. And a quick announcement before I go. You know, the Unexplained Deaths Mystery Intrigue. I will be bringing that back. So it's something very interesting for me to talk about. Yeah, I haven't done one in a while, but if you feel like coming into the stream, hey, the stream's open. Let's hash it out. Okay, let's do your intro.
Oh, intro?
No, not intro. Like the sign off.
Sign off. Okay.
No, I mean, talk about your channel and then sign off.
I'm a musician, an artist, a video artist. I do all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm the new Andy Warhol, so come check me out. I'm a badass motherfucker, and you should watch my shit. Hey, but also watch The Spider, motherfucker.
I bring out content almost every Monday or Tuesday or whatever. Or mostly Monday, because I'm working on those days. All right, it's nice to have you here. This is the Spider 30. Yeah, this is the Spider 32. I post content almost every Monday or maybe Sunday. I don't know. And hey, it's nice to have you on board. Nice to have this talk. Nice to bring in. And like I said, I will be bringing back Unexplained Deaths Mystery Intrigue. If you're interested in that, come on to the live stream. I got a lot to talk about. And hey, this is good. And I'll see you later. Okay, this is the Spider 32. I like to thank everybody that comes in, and hey, adios.